Hi, I'm Sharon Ryback, and I'm back at you again to talk with you a little bit about the complexity of accountability. And the first part of that accountability I want to talk to you about is data and data management. If you remember from what I've said before or written before, one of my big issues is trying to build a bridge to the children of the future. I see us sort of on one side and trying to build that bridge over to those new children that are born today and were born yesterday and are coming into our school setting. They have a completely different set of sensibilities around school and around learning, and I think it's going to be our job to really help them be successful. I apologize because I'm going to do a little bit from notes today, but I'll try to make as much eye contact and be as much there for you as possible. So the first part of this is about school change and about the complexity of data. And the first part I really want to talk about is the shift that really impacted everything in education and sort of led us to where we are today. And in the old days, when I was in school, and even when I began teaching, it was my job to teach the content, and it was the student's responsibility to learn the content. And as a teacher, I came in and I basically sprayed down those youngsters with my knowledge. I gave them experiences and I gave them opportunities, but a lot of it was just a dosage or hosing them down basically with math concepts or whatever else we needed to learn. And the kids in the front of the class sometimes got more damp than others, and the kids in the back of the class sometimes never got damp at all. But it wasn't my job to own their absorption rate. It was their job, and there was almost an assumption that I could not control that. My job was to teach, and their job was to learn. But when standards came into the setting of schools, everything sort of changed, but we really never had a conversation about how that really made things so different. Because in a standards environment, the expectation is that all students will be expected to move forward along a continuum of skills. So if I'm a third grade teacher, I'm a high school science teacher, I'm a middle school teacher, I have content, and the expectation is that I'm moving all those children along that continuum. And I have an expectation, there's an expectation on me as a teacher that they are going to learn that content. Well, as you know, there's a wide developmental range in any classroom. So we can have children at a third grade level who are reading at a first grade and children who are reading at a sixth grade level. And my job is still to move everybody along on that continuum so that even if I have high level readers, they're still exceeding the expectations or moving along their expectations and bringing those lower ones up. That's where the I can statements came in, helping children understand where we're going, how we're going to measure it, what it's going to look like, and helping them understand where they are moving along that continuum. It just changed the environment, but I don't think we really ever had deep conversations with teachers to help them understand how that is going to be philosophically different than the way they did things before. They certainly know that there's a different level of accountability, but did they understand exactly where all that was driven from? We're going to talk about the data a little bit more and as well about problem solving and decision making and some of the complexities around that. So now you imagine you're the old think teacher, okay, and suddenly you're doing what you've always done and you're teaching the way you always taught, and suddenly things just aren't going well because suddenly people are expecting you to manage the classroom in a different way. And what they want you to be able to do is to know your content, know what the students need to learn, and then monitor and measure where all your students are along that continuum. And it sounds like a very rational idea to monitor and measure where students are in that classroom. But the reality is it's really quite a daunting task. Let me give you a baseball analogy for those of you who love baseball. If a baseball player hits 3 balls out of every 10 that are thrown to him or her, that would be a 300 average. And that's a very good baseball average. That means that they've only hit 3 out of 10. But in baseball, you know, and those balls are coming 90 miles an hour, and I understand all that. However, when you put 25 kids in a classroom, they're coming at you 90 miles an hour, and you're supposed to hit 1,000 every day, every single day, not just on game day, every day. Every day is game day. Every day you're expected to hit the ball out of the park with every student in that classroom. And that expectation is really challenging. And teachers, I think, are very frustrated and confused because they really don't know how to do it. So let me give you an example about data, because we talk a lot about data in schools, and we really have high expectations that our teachers are going to collect the data and manage the data and be able to determine where these students are on these variety of skills. If a teacher just collects data on reading and math and housekeeping stuff, lunch count, interventions for struggling readers, and let's say homework for about 25 students, it comes to about 9,000 data points a month. Now that's if they've disaggregated their reading test and disaggregated their math test, and they've really tried to look at all those indicators and who's doing well on what. That yearly is 80,000 data points a year. Well, I don't know how good you are at doing this, but the reality is I think the expectation for what teachers should be able to do in terms of monitoring the data and what they're capable of doing, I think the expectation has outreached us. As a matter of fact, if you look up the very term for data in the dictionary, it's actually numerical information suitable for computer processing. I think we have to begin to look at what our expectations are for teachers. We have some pretty high expectations up here in terms of data collection and monitoring student progress, but we really have low-tech tools available to them right now. And a lot of people are starting to come up with those things, but there's still some additional problems. In my next video, I'm going to share with you what I consider to be some of those additional problems, and that's around problem solving and decision making. It's just not enough to have the data. We really have to go deeper. Thanks.